Survivor Specialist Phil and Alexa are back with our Survivor China Rewatch Episode 3 recap. And today we are joined by Survivor China's own Leslie Nease, a.k.a. Sister Christian, to talk about her boot episode all these years later.
It's so sad, isn't it? It's so sad.
It is so sad. You got such a great edit for somebody who got voted out third. I'm still convinced every time I watch this episode that Jean Robert is going home.
I know, right? They did a great job editing. And I think it's kind of cool because I talked to one of the producers, Doug, after it was over. And I was like, so like, help me understand, how does Survivor work? I wasn't really sure behind the scenes. And he said, you think of each episode as a chapter of a book. And he said, you're the third chapter. He goes, and I'll be honest with you. I think you gave us enough that we're going to know you pretty well, even into chapter 12. And I thought that was pretty cool. I think they did a good job.
That's a really nice comparison, especially now, how many seasons later, where a lot of times it can feel really disjointed, but when you break it down into chapters. And in the second episode, you and Todd have a pretty strong moment together. So I think
we had a lot of strong moments. They sadly they can't show everything, but I think of everything that I'm sad about, like that I wish would have been shown, it would have been more of the relationships I formed, and how important those were in, what I was doing and the game I was playing.
And it's that ultimately, I mean, based on, as a viewer, this is what I got from it. But ultimately what gets you in trouble is the fact that you just went to the other side and had built a relationship with Jamie and seemed like you liked the people. How dare you like other humans?
Well, here's what I want. I love that you guys are giving me an opportunity to talk about this because they don't show everything. And unfortunately, when you're on the show as a contestant, they're very selective of what they show. You're very one-dimensional. And so my one dimension was my Christianity, which by all means, if you're going to show a dimension of me, that's the one I want you to show. Okay. Because that's the best part of me. But I also was a game player and they showed none of it. And I would love to tell you some of the game moves that I made that weren't shown. And I don't know if it's because it makes sense to them that, a Christian woman would actually be playing these moves or
unfathomable.
It just didn't make sense when I edit. I think if I would have gone further, you would have seen a lot more of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think you get overshadowed by Courtney and Todd and James, who they're slowly building up. I mean, this episode is probably the ugliest James episode because this is when we see him talking about Courtney and in such flattering ways.
But so lovely.
So you kind of get overshadowed by that. And even up until this point, you're overshadowing Amanda. You're overshadowing Denise by far. So it's kind of interesting how you're kind of in that middle where they give you a lot of screen time, but they don't want to make it seem like you could ever potentially be like at the same level as what they're building Todd up to be at this point.
Well, okay. So let me explain to you something about Jamie. When we first kidnapped her to come to our tribe, right? She and I got along really well. We knew we were both from South Carolina. We had never talked, but we had always seen each other in the airport when we would go back and forth to LA and stuff. So I was like, and so when I saw her, I knew she was from South Carolina. I knew Eric was from South Carolina and I was from I knew Eric was because he had a guitar case with a palmetto tree, which is South Carolina's logo. So I was like, okay, so there's three of us. That's pretty cool. And I was like, hopefully they'll be on my tribe. Of course they weren't. But I knew right away that, we had something in common. A state. I mean, you grab at things when you're out there. Like, what can I possibly share with any of these people? And so when Jamie was kidnapped to our tribe, she and I had a conversation. She was actually initially going to give Courtney the clue because she was talking about the weakest link. And she was actually talking about Courtney. She called me that show. I go, did you call me a week late? She goes, no, I actually was talking about Courtney. And she said, I was going to give it to her, but then you had a conversation with me. And what we did was we made a cross tribe alliance. So it was me and Todd and her and Eric. And I said, so here's what we do. You and I are the only ones that know that there's a clue to the hidden immunity. We're the four that will know. That's it. So we always have to convince our tribe to either kidnap you or Eric if it's us, or me or Todd if it's, you guys win. So we knew that going in, and we knew we had the persuasion. We knew we could convince people to do that. And that's why they picked me. Everybody's like, why the heck did they pick Leslie? Because we made it that way. We planned it and they didn't even show it. And so, I get over there. And so I knew that we already sort of had this thing going. And I knew that I was going to give her the clue. And then she and Eric were going to share that information. And I was going to go back and talk to Todd about the clues she got, and just kind of try to put things together. So we really did have something going. And it was really fun to play the game. You know what I mean? I think they didn't show me playing the game, which is fine. Like I said, if you're going to show me playing, being a good, nice person. But, I did play.
Did Jamie tell you how she convinced her whole tribe to pull you over?
Yes. So she and Eric were in it together.
Right.
And they said, if we ever win a challenge, we need to bring Leslie. They knew it had to be either me or Todd. And I didn't know which one. It was either me or Todd. That's why when they picked me and you see Todd's face, he's like, he knew. He knew it was either him or me. And he was so excited that it was me because he knew I'd come back and share the information. Well, so she said what she said was that I was, from South Carolina and they already had a bond with me and they thought they could pull something out of me. And so that's what they did. And so when I was at their tribe and I was talking to them, I didn't tell them anything, you guys. I know it makes it look like I did, but I swear to you, Jamie knew everything about our tribe. And I knew she told them because she told me because we're in an alliance, right? And she goes, yeah, I told them everything. So just give up the information so that you look like they can trust what you're saying. And I'm like, yes, perfect. So that's why I did that. And then they made it look like I was just an idiot.
Well, and Aaron gets mad at you in that episode and says, like, well, thanks for blowing up my spot. And it's like, but last episode, you were screaming at Jean Robert while Jamie is laying head to head with Jean Robert.
And he talked about how he's the leader with his little jacket on. I'm like, dude, you blew up your game, not me. It wasn't my fault. They already knew. And I was honest with them about what I said because I didn't want to getting back to them and then them say, why didn't you tell us what you said? So that's why I did it. I really wasn't being stupid. It's just the way the edit was. It made it look like I had no clue how to play the game, that I was just out there to, I don't know what they thought I was doing.
Yeah, well, let's talk about this because in this episode, so to me, this is the episode that really sets in motion the rest of Survivor China because we finally get to really know the Fei Long tribe. Because up until now, we've heard you all talking to each other, but because you haven't gone to tribal, we haven't seen it. And knowing how far Fei Long goes, this is the one to me. We have Jean Robert at the beginning with the sleeping situation. We have Jean Robert and James talking about Todd and Courtney. Where were you in all of this? Like, what was going on while the sleeping situation was happening? What was going on while Todd and Courtney would be off and James and Jean Robert would be doing whatever they were doing?
James and Jean Robert always went off, and we were fine with it because, they just were kind of their own little animal. And Denise went with them a lot. I was always with Courtney. Me and Courtney were like inseparable out there. So when they showed her when she wasn't with me, I'm like, where the heck was I? Because we were always together. And Todd and I, it's funny. I loved Courtney the most, but I was not in an alliance with her. I was in an alliance from day one with Amanda and Todd and James and Aaron. So it was the 5 of us. Okay. And then that's why Todd did not want to vote me out. Aaron wanted to vote me out like right away when he found out, that I was over there. And of course they said, why did they pick you? And I didn't want to go, well, because we're in a cross tribal alliance and they made sure that it would, so I said, oh, maybe it's because I'm a Christian and there's 3 other Christians on the tribe. And that like freaked him out. He's like, oh, you Christians are so, I don't know what, but yeah, he was afraid. So, you know what, to be honest, to be fair, he should have been afraid. I was in an alliance with him, but it was also with Todd. So, he was just as snaky as I was. It's just they showed his snakiness. So
I find that interesting that you were in with Amanda, Todd, James, and Aaron, because as we see the rest of the season play out, all you had to do is make it past this one vote.
That's all we had to do. And you know what, though, I think Denise was in their ear. And I think, because I was sick, I got a parasite out there and I was very sick from about day 3 and lost 17 pounds in 9 days. It was bad. Oh my God. So it's really, really good that I got voted out, to be honest with you, because I really needed medical treatment and I don't think I would have quit. I think I would have stayed out there until I passed out.
Do you think they would have had to pull you at some point with that?
I don't know, but I'm afraid they probably would have. I was really, really sick. I was sick for a long time.
You had it?
Do what?
Did you know in the moment that you had a parasite? Were they monitoring?
I knew something. Oh, they were monitoring me. They knew something was going on because I was man, I don't want to talk about this. This is embarrassing, but I'm an
an
open book.
But okay.
It's Survivor. Okay, so diarrhea happened a lot for me while I was out there because of this. And I'm sorry, if you're a human and you don't poop, then I'm sorry that I just offended you.
But
yeah, so it was really bad. It was, I mean, it would like just come down like I couldn't, it was like everybody in my tribe was like, oh my gosh, you poor thing. Everybody else was constipated and I could not stop. So I don't know what's worse, but so I think that them seeing me sick like that kind of scared them a little bit. Like she's not going to be strong enough. And I kind of understand that. In retrospect, it's like, would I have gotten past it? Probably. I think, no matter what, I think Will can win out if you're, strong enough. And I was pretty strong. It's just, man, it was tough. I mean, that was the hard part. It was like, have you ever had a dream where you're running, but your body's not moving as fast as you're trying? That was my reality, like 24/7.
Right.
It was so hard. And when we would do challenges, I was like, I had cement in my body and I couldn't move. It was
the challenges on this season are so physical. Everyone is just beating each other up and just
and stripping clothes off. And I mean, it was,
He completely takes his clothes off. It's something I forgot to happen.
By the way, there's no blurry spot in reality. Like you have to look at it. So it was kind of like, oh my word.
There was one in the episode 3 of Jean Robert standing there with like his pants hanging down too far, and it was just blurring out the front of him. And I was like, oh man, I'm so glad I'm not on this island.
Well, Jean Robert, what the heck were you thinking? He wore blue jeans with no underwear and a silk shirt, and he wore Louis Vuitton shoes. I'm like, dude, what are you playing? I don't understand. Like, I put so much thought into my outfit. My outfit was so well thought out. And I knew that's the one they were going to pick for me because it looked like a Sunday school teacher, which is what they were going for. I could tell. And so, you got to think these things through. Y'all, if you're going on Survivor, please wear underwear, for crying out loud. You're going to be chafed forever. He's probably still chafed to this day, like 13 years later. So,
do you think it was part of his plan, though, to be as sleazy as possible?
I really hope so.
Okay.
I do. I mean, I hope so. He was actually a really nice guy, like one-on-one. We had some great talks, and I really like him as a person. But man, as a game player, he was just always about the camera, like always wanted to be in front of the camera. And like when they would pull me aside, they interviewed me all the time. I don't know if they knew my day was coming, if they thought I was entertaining. I don't know, but they were always interviewing me. And I got back from an interview once and he goes, we might as well just quit because Leslie's going to win. She's having the most interviews. And I'm like, oh crap. If I'm having more interviews at the beginning, I'm in trouble. Mm-hmm. I know what that means. But yeah, it was just hard.
That is a good point about him, because at Tribal Council, he makes a really sound argument about, he's like, oh no, I am nervous. I'm not so confident that I know I'm not in trouble, but then
he knew
the sleeping situation. So it's very easy as a viewer to waffle on.
Yeah. He knows what to say and when to say it. He was good for the camera, right? But and he was actually really good one-on-one. We had some great talks.
And that's how I feel about Jean Robert, because one of my favorite moments of the season, and it's because I'm still a high school boy at heart, is when he just at the reunion just yells at Eric and Jamie and is like, hey, so what have you guys been like? And he just like, he's so brash.
Oh, he's out there. Yeah.
And but for me, I'm like, he would never make it in 2020 on TV. Like he had to play Survivor China. He could not play later because it's so cringy when he's talking about Courtney in this episode, and his exact quote, and I quote Jean Robert, there's not, $1 million is nice, but $1 million and some ass is better. And you're just like, wow. But also, like you just said, I feel like he's doing it because it's the one-on-one, and he feels like that's his way to connect with James. I'm not saying James is like, oh yeah, you're right. But I just think like that was his way of thinking like, hey man, like we're the boys. This is what we're doing. Let's talk about this stuff. And when he talks to Courtney, he's probably not talking to her like that at all.
Yeah, no, I mean, he didn't. And I don't know. That's what I've always said. I feel like he said he was pretending to be lazy just because he wanted to make this, bad boy impression or whatever. I just am not convinced. I feel like he was just lazy. I think he was tired. He had, he's a big guy. We had no food. Everybody was sick. It was raining all the time. I don't know. I feel like that just doesn't play out for me, but that's just me. I don't know. I don't think Courtney bought it either. We talked about it.
I also think playing the lazy card is a very easy card to play because that's just being.
That's not gaming at all. That's not even poker. That's like obvious. Either you're really lazy and so we're going to get rid of you, and I think you can get away with that when you're a big guy. You can't get away with it when you're a woman, especially an old woman. It's what they called me old. I was 38.
Yes.
Courtney's 38 now, I think.
Yeah. She's very close, if not. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's definitely not old, and I definitely wasn't old, but I think because I was sick, it seemed like I was old. I don't know.
Yeah, and so getting off of Jean Robert here, going to they think that you're older, therefore you're weaker. Courtney literally says she lost 2 hands and a shoulder in the challenge because she couldn't chop the rope.
Right.
Were you voted out because you were weaker than Courtney, or because Todd felt that he could use Courtney further into the game?
It was neither of those.
Okay.
I was voted out because Aaron insisted that I be voted out because he was scared about my connections with the other tribe. And Aaron told me that when he was voted out. He goes, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I really messed up." And I was like, "Actually, you didn't." I was actually in an alliance with them, but you did a good job. But Todd did not want me to go. Remember, we're in this 5-person alliance, and it doesn't include Courtney.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it includes Aaron. Aaron's in this alliance with me, and he's talking about voting me out first. It made no sense. I really thought they were going to vote out Courtney until about halfway through the day. I was like, oh my gosh, nobody is looking at me. The only person who was hanging out with me was Courtney, as usual. You know, the two of us were like, I mean, we were 2 peas in a pod. It was hilarious. Everything we did together because we got along. You know, here's the thing. We're not the same kind of person, but we're both very authentic. What you see is what you get. We weren't there to like play a role or to, you know, play a part. We were there being genuine human beings, just having an experience and trying to win $1 million, you know? Yeah. So we connected on some really, really neat levels.
And when you're directly voted out, or I think when you're getting the vote from Todd, it's very clear that he's happy about it. It's very clear that he didn't want to do it and felt bad. So I thought that was
Why do you think though that Todd was so willing to bend to Aaron's will in this episode?
He did not want to go against the numbers. And Jean Robert and James, even though James was in my alliance too, they were both. And I think that was part, you know, to be honest, maybe that was a good move for Jean Robert. Getting in with James made James want Jean Robert over me, even though I was in an alliance with him. Yeah. So, you know, I don't know, but I know it wasn't Todd. I know it wasn't Todd. He fought for me. And when he voted, like he put mom, and I knew right away, I was like, oh my gosh. Oh, because it was like a dagger. I was like, no, Todd. But I turned around and I looked at him and I said, listen, this is just a game. Don't worry about it. And he was like, I'm so sorry. And you see me put my arm, you know, on his leg. I was like, it's okay. It's okay. Mm-hmm. It was like, oh gosh. And then Amanda, she wrote mom, you know, it's like, they didn't want to do it. We were in an alliance. It was the last thing they wanted to do, but the big guys were kind of running the show and they didn't want to get rid of the big guys yet because of challenges.
Right. Mm-hmm. I have a Todd question, and Phil, I know you're going to ask about the challenges and the tribe breakout. Yeah. But so in the first episode, Jean Robert tells Todd to his face, you're so snaky, but wants to work with him. Amanda does the exact same thing. You just said that exact same thing about him. Was this like collective knowledge, but there was still trustworthiness? Like it seemed like he balanced that so perfectly.
Todd probably played the best game of anybody I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not kidding. I know there have been people who've played 12 times. I don't know that they should have. I think Todd should have. You know what I mean? Yeah. Unfortunately, he's had personal issues that kept him from doing that. But I'm telling you, that kid knows how to play Survivor. He knows how to, you know, and to be honest, like to be able to do that and to be so loved afterward, like I was like praying for this kid the whole time I was out there. He and my 3 kids, I call them Amanda and Courtney and Todd. I prayed for them every single day. You see it in my journals. And then they were the top 3. I was like,
we thank you for that.
Why wasn't I praying for myself?
No, it's the greatest final 3 of all time. Yeah, if you would have thrown your name in there,
welcome.
It should have been selfish. Leslie. That's the problem. You weren't selfish enough.
Yeah. That's well, truly, I was way out of my element when it comes to that.
Sure.
And it's funny you say that though, because we just did the top 100 survivors with Russell Hantz on his channel, and he came up with that list, and Alexa and I both put lists together, and I had Todd ranked as the number 2 greatest player of all time, only behind Tony, and that's just because Tony played twice and won twice. But if Tony hadn't won in Winners at War, I'd probably have Todd at number 1, because I think it's one of the most unbelievable games ever.
So likable, so smart, so like 8 steps ahead. I mean, everything. And, and he was so much fun to play with. Like, he wasn't annoying. He just smelled really bad. I remember he was like the worst. All of us smelled bad.
He was the worst smelling one.
He smelled so bad. It was hilarious. I was like, Todd, what is wrong with you?
And John Robert says in this episode, Todd, you definitely got to get your stinky ass into the water.
We all told him that. We were like, dude. And I love Todd, and he'll laugh when he hears this because he knows that I don't mean any ill will, but my goodness, it was bad. I know we all smelled. So
Todd wouldn't have been in my top 5 guesses of smelling person.
And it doesn't help either, because I think it's in Survivor Fans versus Favorites. They vote on who is the worst smelling person, and they all pick James. So I would just assume that James smelled so bad. Maybe James was just rubbing off on Todd, and Todd, it wasn't his fault.
James went from China to there, so maybe he never just really got his stank off.
He never got the shower. It was too immediate. That's amazing. I would have never thought Todd, but hey, you know what? If you can smell really bad and still play as good as he did, that says a lot.
Like a champ. Like, he totally deserved it.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask you before we get into like the other tribe, because I have so many hypotheticals for you. But one thing I want to ask, because we're only 3 episodes in and rewatching this season, I've always said Amanda doesn't live up to the hype in China. She's great in Fans versus Favorites, but in China, she's not on that tier that everybody puts her. Through 3 episodes, she's very invisible. We don't hear really much from her at all. What was Amanda like in those early days out there?
Well, she was like my kid. I mean, she was just very quiet. She said she was a hiking guide, but she didn't know much about hiking. And so I was like, I don't know about that. Turns out she was a model. So that made sense. And then, but she was in pageants, and so was I. So we had that in common, and we talked about that a lot. She was quiet. Like, I never would have guessed she would have done as well. I thought she and Aaron had something going because they were always snuggling together. And, I thought that was a thing. I would have felt very bold in saying it was. So I was kind of surprised that it wasn't. I think they were really just cold. I mean, we were all freezing. It was like so cold at night. It would get up to like 110 in the day and then drop down to 60. And we were soaking wet, just shivering. Brutal. It was awful. Yeah.
That's awful. So, and everybody, I assume, was fighting over Courtney for the warmth, right? Because that's at least what we're told.
Poor little Courtney. She was like, John Bear did that with all of us. I mean, he was hardcore trying to snuggle, and, because of his
shirt, it doesn't keep you that warm.
Attire, it was a little, I don't know, off-putting. We confronted him one night, and he went out. I think we hurt his feelings, and it hurt my heart. I felt really bad. We were like, John Robert, just go. And he just left. And so he went down to the boat and slept on the boat. And so I went down there the next morning, and I was like, John Robert, all right, here's why you're upsetting us. Because I thought maybe he's not self-aware. Maybe he doesn't understand, that this is not acceptable. I'm like, you put your hands in places. It's kind of annoying. And I just kind of like told him, and he goes, I'm so sorry. I'm really cold. And I'm like, yeah, you probably are. You're wearing blue jeans. They're never going to get dry. And, and we wouldn't let him go around naked. The women were like, absolutely freaking not. So he had to go into the water to take his pants off. Like, we would not let him out of the water. And so I kind of felt like we kind of bullied him a little bit that night, and I felt really bad. So I apologized. And then he said to me, what are you doing out here? You're a Christian woman. What are you doing? And I was like, what is that supposed to mean? He goes, well, I mean, isn't this kind of against like how you live your life? And I said, not really. I said, we're surrounded by this all the time. It's not really about all that to me. To me, it's more about like, this is a game. It's like when I play balderdash with my kids, I don't go, oh, I'm not going to lie and make up something. It's part of the game. I said, but in real life, this is not who I am. So it's an interesting rub to be out here, but it's not something that I'm opposed to because I love this game. I've watched it since season 1. And he goes, well, how do you get through it? And I said, well, I memorized a lot of scripture. And he said, really? And I said, yeah. I said, my favorite one is Psalm 91. And he goes, will you tell it to me? And I said, yeah. So I quoted the entire Psalm 91. And the whole time he's like laying on the boat like this, like with his eyes closed, just listening. He was so sweet. So sweet. And then he looked over at me and he goes, you really believe that, don't you? And I said, with all of my heart. And he goes, well, I can tell that you're a genuine person. And I thought, okay. Me and John Robert, we just had like a moment. That's good.
A good conversation.
It was actually on the secret scenes. Yes.
Is that in the on if I were to buy the box set for this season, is it in there or was it like on YouTube or something?
I mean, it was on CBS.com.
It was on CBS.
Oh, okay. So we don't have to buy a DVD.
Well,
I know I probably will. I don't know how I don't own China, but I own Africa. That blows my mind. No, that's really cool. And I think that's what kind of gets a little bit not missed in the newer seasons, but what I like so much about the older seasons is even Jean Robert, who obviously we poke our fun at and all of that, that's what you do because of what, but at the same time, there's something so entertaining and still there's a sincerity to Jean Robert that you don't necessarily get from some of the newer villains who really do pull off some things that are despicable where you're like, oh man, why am I watching this on TV? Like Jean Robert says some stuff where you're like, this is horrible, but you're also watching Todd and Courtney sit there and laugh and be like, this guy's just an ass. Like, what are you doing?
What are you going to do? Sometimes you just have to laugh,
Yeah. And so it's good to hear there's these genuine, real moments that everybody was still having out there, because I always say to myself, how does Jean Robert not go home in the first tribal council if they really did dislike him as much as they did? And the answer is they probably, I guess maybe they just didn't dislike him as much as we're led to believe.
There was a lot of dislike, but there was also, he had good relationships with somebody in our alliance, James and Denise, who then took my place in the alliance and then made it to the final 4.
Yeah.
And they put Courtney in there too when Aaron left.
Right. And I think Jean Robert also being a huge guy who helps out in challenges. I think that's.
Yeah, it helps. I mean, it does help when you're, especially in the beginning, when you're just looking for reasons to vote people out because you really don't know anybody yet. So, being sick doesn't help. Being older doesn't help. I just kind of had the cards stacked against me.
So I want to ask you about the tribes, how they were set up originally, because we've talked about this in the first couple of episodes of our rewatch, where it's like, these are possibly the most uneven tribes in the history of the show. It's so crazy. I mean, how do Aaron, Jean Robert, and James all end up on the same tribe when the other tribe has, and this is I know Frosty is a very athletic guy, but Frosty's he's also 5'9", 5'8", something like that. So when I look at how these were designed, what happened? Because you said it earlier, you and Denise are on the same tribe. How are you both on the same tribe? You're both the moms. How are the 3 strongest guys on the same tribe? How are Todd and Courtney on the same tribe? But then if you look at the other tribe, how are they what was going on here? And do you have any idea why?
Insight. I have no insight into this. I wish I did. I know that I know they know us better than we know ourselves when we go out there, and they knew which personalities would clash. I think that they really misread me, though. I think because I was a Christian radio host and I was, very strong in my faith, I think they thought I was going to be the judgmental kind and and I just wasn't. And so I think that's why they put me with Todd. And we had some really genuine moments out there too. I remember one time he said, I love to ask people questions. I interview people all the time. Right now I'm dying to ask both of you questions. You know what I mean? I love it. I love hearing about people's lives. And so I asked him, so what obstacles have you had to overcome in your life that have made you the man that you are today? And, he just got mad and put walls up. He goes, is that your way of asking if I'm a homosexual? And I was like, oh, no, why? Are you gay? And he's like, yeah. I was like, oh, that's a big thing, because I knew he had been raised Mormon. He'd already been talking about that. And so I was like, wow, that's got to be tough, and he goes, so I guess you don't want to talk to me anymore. I was like, why? What do you mean? He's like, well, usually Christians don't want anything to do with me. And I was just like, dang it, what are we doing? How it was kind of interesting for me. I'm going to get really deep here for a second, but being in the South, literally living in the buckle of the Bible Belt, working in Christian radio, Christian friends, Christian community, literally everybody's a Christian in South Carolina, it feels like. And so it was very easy to live out my faith. And I never really understood when my husband would come home from work and he'd just be so stressed out. I'm like, just trust the Lord. What's wrong with you? And he's like, oh gosh, if only it was that easy. You don't know what I'm doing. And so being out there and coming out of that protective bubble was incredibly enlightening for me and very difficult for me. I had to take a look in the mirror. Some of the things, that people would tell me were said to them, the judgment, all of that stuff was stuff that I really had to kind of give myself a little bit of a, okay, Leslie, this isn't the way you need to be living. This is not what God's asked you to do. And so it's really been helpful for me. And I'm not the same person that I was. Mm-hmm. Still love the Lord more than ever, but I'm not the same person I was.
And what's amazing is that was 9 days of being out there, and I think people miss that. And I think that's gotten kind of thrown to the wayside probably after Russell played. I think you really were in one of the last seasons where we talked about those kinds of like relationships and growth and stuff like that. And then once Russell played, the game became very, very strategic and all about idols and stuff like that. And now the people who are voted out 16th, 15th, 14th, we don't know them. We don't know them at all. And with the exception of maybe like a Ghost Island season where we actually are rooting for most of the people who go home there with Brendan and Stephanie and all of that. But I think what's fascinating is like we look at a season like Second Chances. Mm-hmm. And I wish they would have asked you because I like every time I watch China, I'm like, man, Leslie is great TV, should be on another season. Like I always say, like Aaron is the one when I'm a young guy, I'm like, I was rooting for Aaron, but Aaron doesn't really do as much. And you, I feel like have more of a character and more depth there. But I think the reason why somebody like, in Second Chances, Jeff Varner was able to do well and why Kimmy Kappenberg was able to do well. We knew them already. Like we did have a relationship with them despite the fact that they went out so early in their seasons. Andrew Savage, I'm watching Pearl Islands now and my girlfriend was screaming at the TV when Andrew Savage got voted out and he goes home 10th. Like we have that relationship with Second Chances. And I think it's really interesting how like somebody who played the game 9 days on one of the most popular seasons of the entire show, still 13 years later is like, yeah, it changed my perspective on things.
Changed it. And would I do it again? Yes. They have talked to me about Second Chances before. FYI. It didn't work out. They ended up doing something else. But they even talked to me once about Blood versus Water and going with my son, he's 28 now, but he used to be like, oh my gosh, every gray hair I have and have to color is from him. He would hop trains all over the United States and play his banjo in parks and sleep in the park. And like, he was a hobo. Like, oh my God. And he would call himself a transcendentalist. I think that's like, they believe that God is like in the world, whatever.
Transcendentalists.
We're polar opposite. It would have been the most amazing thing to watch because in spite of our differences, like that is my boy. Oh my gosh. I would do anything for him. Like it would be really hard to play this game with him. And I think it would be interesting to see, but that didn't work out either. So
that'd be a really fun dynamic.
Yeah. Tell them.
And we haven't had a mother-son
I know. Especially like Father's be really cool.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say it's almost like people I guess they almost like undervalue sometimes the mother-son relationship because I'm thinking about it like we had Kelly Wentworth and Dale Wentworth on. We've had every other type of that except for the mother-son. Mm-hmm. And I always think if I was going to play Blood versus Water, my sister thinks I would ask her. I would play with my mom in a second.
Yeah.
So it's funny how we haven't had that yet, but I think that would be such an interesting, and especially with what you're talking about, that would be amazing.
Wouldn't that be so fun? And I wanted to see how it played out. I was so excited when we were talking to them about it, but it didn't work out. So, at least they've talked to me before. So I know that there's the thought that could maybe happen someday, but if they called me old at 38, I'm 51 now, dude, but you know what? I am still in really good shape. So I don't know. I teach fitness classes. I'm fine.
Yeah, no, I would never guess if we didn't know that you had played Survivor 13 years ago and we're already the old lady. I wouldn't believe you if you said you were 51. So
thank you.
But I like to hear that though, because I wish they would do like another Second Chances type thing, but I still want them to pull from older seasons. And I do think with China, they were looking pre-merge. not to spoil for everybody, but if you haven't watched all of Survivor China, why are you watching this?
Yeah.
I think you're really the main person that they would have to pull from there, because Dave it wouldn't click with people at all. I don't think. Sharia is phenomenal. I always think.
Oh my gosh, I love her.
So she keeps like outperforming herself in challenges, but we're hearing nothing from her. It's so weird.
You know,
at this point in 3 episodes into the season,
I don't think that they edited her very well.
No.
Because when she was voted out, the first 6 of us that were voted out went on like this trip, all over China together. And, it sounds a lot of fun, but like, everybody's so sick and I'm just miserable. But it was, we were together. She was my roommate and we got so close. And I literally like, oh my gosh, I love her so much. To this day, we call each other roomie, because we got really close. I loved her. And, I actually had some really hard times emotionally after I was voted out, because I had 30 days left before I could go home. And I was sick. I missed my family so much. Oh my gosh, it was so hard. And I just was really sad that my dream was over and I didn't do as well as I hoped and thought that I would do. And so I was dealing with a lot of that. And she was really there for me. She's a good person. I love her.
Yeah. I mean, I always think it sucks that Denise couldn't eat the balut. That's all I'll say, because I think that I
would have eaten the balut, just so you know.
I
totally
imagine,
like in one bite. It would have been gone.
It would have been gone. And I just, it's such a shame. Every time I watch that episode, I'm like, please, I hate Jamie and PG so much right now. Come on, please. And it doesn't end up working out. And then we lose Sharia, who at that point, like, I really like every time I watch it, I always forget how much I like Sharia. And I feel like that's the best part about Survivor China, is every time I watch it, everybody is always better than they actually are in my mind. And that's saying a lot, because they're so great in my mind. And I totally forget about Sharia. And that entire time, like, she's the voice of reason on that tribe. She's fantastic.
She's hilarious. And she's so much fun. She's great. And man, I'm telling you, those challenges where you had to fight one-on-one with the women. Okay. She was so strong. She could have picked me up like this and thrown me. And I work out, and I was like, I could not even come close. And I know I was sick, but still, I was thinking I would have performed a little better. And I remember. Okay, just a little backstory here. After I was thrown off the boat the 3rd time, I cussed. I said a cuss word, and I'm a Christian radio host, right? And I started bawling, because I was like, and I got off the boat and I go, Courtney, I said the S word. And she goes, so? And I go, they're going to show it. I'm going to lose my job. I feel so bad. I was like, really upset.
Showed it.
Oh, listen, wait, it gets better. So then I beat myself up and I'm so sorry, God, I've misrepresented you and all this. And they never even showed it. Never even showed it. I beat myself up. And then finally the Lord was speaking to me in my heart, not loud, but I heard him say, you're just not that powerful. You can't ruin my reputation. Stop it. You're not that great. I love you. You're the apple of my eye, but you are not that powerful. Get over yourself.
But now that the story is out, and now that everybody knows,
changes opinions here.
Changes opinions. Leslie, I don't know about that second chances thing anymore.
Right? Because I said the S word. It just flew right out of my, I had done it all my life. I mean, it's just loud and proud, because
happens to the rest of us.
Well, I've been hanging out with them people for 9 days. You heard how they talk? Oh, and so it was pretty fun.
I'm sure John Rivera and James have never said the S word.
Oh, no. They've said a lot worse, trust me.
And what makes me laugh is you go to Courtney right away and say it, and she's the New York waitress who's pretty much bad-mouthing everything she can possibly bad-mouth in the first 3 episodes.
Except when Courtney, it's funny, when she was around me, she wasn't like that. The first couple of days was, and then she got to know me. I never said, don't cuss around me. I don't care what you say. That's your life. I'm doing my thing. You're doing yours. I don't care. But she would say, Mama's here. Clean up your tongue. Don't talk like that around Mama. And she would get defensive. And I was like, Courtney, stop it. They're going to start feeling like they can't be themselves around me, So she was very, and she really felt bad for me when I'm like, you guys don't understand how nice she is. Again, one facet. They show you one-dimensional. And they only showed her sarcastic, sort of smart aleck side. They didn't show the Courtney that I saw, which was caring and loving and she was just amazing. I love her. She's still that way.
I have to say though, I'm kind of happy with the edit because Courtney's I think the funniest player to ever play the game. So I can't complain too much.
Yes, I totally agree with you, but it is to me, I'm like, yes, you do have that side, know.
And I remember listening to I remember listening to Rob Cesternino's podcast with Courtney after Heroes versus Villains, and she was talking about Tyson, or maybe it wasn't Rob Cesternino, it was somebody though, and she was talking about Tyson, and they were like, oh, I'm sure Tyson was just, and she's like, no, he's not the way you would think he is, because they play up the smart Alex side because it's the better TV. Oh, but everything behind the scenes is so much different. And Tyson, I guess, I don't know if he's very religious or not, but I just know that she was saying, no, you'd be surprised at how Tyson really is out on the island when he's not talking to the camera.
Well, and Courtney, she's so dang smart. I mean, we had an IQ test before we went out there. She was the highest. She was really, really smart. And she knew why they put her on the show. Like, do you know her story, why she got cast?
Because she was mouthing off to somebody.
She was mouthing off to somebody, as a waitress.
I didn't know that.
And Lynn was there, the casting director, and she's like, Survivor, we need you. It leaves in 2 weeks. And she's like, what is Survivor? I don't even know what it is. And so she got picked because of that. So she knew that's what they were looking for. And, she knew how to play that role, but she wasn't really that. I mean, like she is, there is that aspect of her, but she is probably the most multifaceted person I've ever known.
That's amazing.
Just so you know, there's more to her than
you think. She's the highest IQ. That's fantastic.
Yes.
Tip your waitresses in New York, everybody. You never know when they're the smartest person you've ever met. I mean, that's
smart.
It's crazy though. And I think we do kind of get that a little bit in this episode too. I'm not sure if I'm right, but I think this is the only time we see Courtney break throughout the entire season. And at Tribal Council, when she starts talking about how the last 9 days have essentially been, how can we just make her do the least amount of damage? And she actually breaks down crying. I forget about that because all I remember is her talking about Denise and her talking about Amanda, James, and mouthing off to Jean Robert. That's what I remember. But I always forget about this moment. And it is a very genuine moment that you don't expect to see from somebody who has this hardened exterior like Courtney, at least we're told she does.
Right. And it was interesting because did you remember in that where she hurt her hands and her shoulder, that one where she looked at me at one point and said, pray for me. I wrote that down. I bawled my eyes out. I was like, I love her so much. Lord, help her, please. I was like praying the whole time. And like, even though she didn't, it took her a while, she made it through. And that was really what I was praying for. Like, let her get through this. Like, don't let her give up, because if she gives up, she's never going to forgive herself. I knew she wouldn't. And just seeing her that vulnerable was, it kind of like, I don't know, ignited the mom thing in my heart. And I just wanted to take care of her. She's so sweet. I know.
And in reality, you should have just belittled her so she would have went out of the game and you would have still been there, Leslie.
You know what? If that was my husband, that's what I would have done. He's like, dang, woman, you are way too nice. But, the night before I left for Survivor, I knew in my heart that I'm a relationship person. I am all about connection. I love people to a fault, right? And so the night before Survivor, I said, all right, honey, when I get back, just so you know, our family's going to be growing. We're going to have a Survivor family now. And so that's always been kind of a big thing for me, is keeping us all connected, not even just my season, but all of them. Like, I started a private Survivor page so that we could all connect. And when the new people come in, we just were there to like say, okay, it's going to be okay. This, people are going to be jerks for a while, but you'll get over it. And then it's the next people. So then you can help them. It's just nice. I feel like that what's the purpose of life if you don't have connection? And so even though it was a game, and even though, there's cutthroat and all that, there was this element to it that I think is very human and very, very beautiful. And I think it's kind of what's missing in some of the seasons now. And it makes me sad, because the people who are in those seasons are just as lovely. You just only get to see that one aspect,
Absolutely. Yeah, and Alexa and I have actually gotten to interview a lot of the newer players. You're the first person we're interviewing from your season. We should be having PG on next week, but I've gotten to speak to PG a couple times. But I do like everybody who's ever played Survivor, anybody who I've met, anybody who we've interviewed is fascinating. There's a reason they get put on TV.
Yeah.
I just feel that Survivor has kind of drifted from that a little bit. I think the show has just drifted from that a little bit. And the reason why we all still hunger for James and Amanda and Courtney and Todd is because they were just well developed. It's not that they're any more interesting, and maybe
Right.
some of them are. Maybe James, we haven't seen another James, but at the end of the day, we miss that because they're just not editing it that way. Every one of these people could be exactly those 4 players every season. It's just not happening anymore.
Yeah, it's kind of like I don't know. I do. I feel like they're losing the relationship aspect of the game, and I think they're trying too hard. And I don't want to say that it's not good that they're doing all these social things, but they're really trying really hard to be like socially relevant. You know,
Right.
you can be socially relevant without making it a socially relevant thing. Like we were so socially relevant in our season. You know, me and Todd coming together, a Christian radio host and a gay Mormon flight attendant. Are you kidding me? Like that's not supposed to happen, but it did, you know, and there was but it was organic, and it wasn't like, everybody sit down now, let's talk about how we're making an impact in the world. You know, it's like, stop, just let these people be, let them have their fun and their relationships, and let them be mad and happy and excited, and let's see the reality of it. I feel like sometimes we're just trying too hard to make everything about something.
The entire point of the game is 20 people from all walks of life.
Right.
Like, that's gonna happen. These conversations will happen no matter what 20 people you put out there.
Yeah.
So like trust the cast.
Yeah.
And I think you got in your season, especially, it's, you know, there's a lot of strategy talk, but there's also a lot of human talk. And you watch season now and it's strictly strategy talk. And we're thirsty for
You're thirsty for it.
For a fishing scene.
Yeah.
Relations. What did I just say? What is life without connection? So it's not just us connecting on the show. It's you guys connecting to the people on the show. It's all about connection. And if we lose that connection, and if it all just becomes cutthroat and about a game, Survivor's not going to survive.
Yeah.
They really need to get back. It's like I said at Tribal Council, you know, there's brawn and then there's heart. And Survivor's become this. It's not here anymore. And it needs to be more of that, because I think right now America needs that. Well, the world needs that. The world needs us to come back to what matters, and that's each other. We're so busy being mad at each other. Nobody's connecting anymore. You know, you just make up your mind, I'm never going to be that person's friend, instead of sitting down and listening to them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's exactly spot on. And that's why I'm hoping that when we do get season 41, which I'm assuming will be next fall, you know, a long time from now, I do hope that it just becomes a little bit more like that, because I think, I'm not saying that people need to step away from it, but I do think people need a little bit of a break right now, because for 6 months, this is like all we've had. I mean, these last 6 months have been some of the hardest 6 months, probably the hardest 6 months that anybody like here has gone through, or anybody who's alive today. This has been the hardest 6 months. Yeah, I'm no joke. Barring some crazy traumatic experience, this is the hard, and the fact that it's all happening like this, I just hope that like when it happens, I hope that like season 41 isn't the COVID season. I hope it's more of like, man, I miss being able to connect with people like this. And over that last year, I'm glad that now I'm able to sit down and be on an island with this person who I never thought I would have ever talked to after the last year of our lives. That's what I hope we get more of. I hope so too. And I get frustrated because I feel like they could have done a season of Survivor. I think if everybody in the cast and everybody behind the scenes would isolate themselves for a couple of weeks, everybody's got a clean bill of health. If you're going out on a remote, deserted island, who are you going to be exposed to? You're not going to be exposed to it. You'd probably be safer than any of us. Yeah. So come on, CBS. They pulled off Big Brother. I mean, I think the problem was, and look, I don't know anything. So this is just me as a guy who decided to do a podcast on YouTube. I think the problem was they got too locked into Fiji. Yeah. And I think if they would have been willing to film on an American island or
Yeah.
film, in like Rob Cesternino said, do the Wild West. Let's do that. Like, if they would have been willing to film somewhere else, I think they could have pulled it off. But they didn't want to do that. And I don't know. I mean, look, I don't think they would have been able to get to Fiji because I think with the Fiji government not really wanting to like have the tourism, and I think it would have just been a lot for them, the liability on Fiji then. But I do think that there was a way that they could have done this. Like they could have done this.
But I think there's also it's easy to be a armchair quarterback, but I just do feel like there could have been more that could have been done. But like I'm nobody either. I was on the show, but that was a long time ago. And I can't believe the level of emotion and responsibility that goes into the decisions that people have to make this year. About whether or not to open, whether or not to close. So it's like, yes, of course, I want them to do it. But if they have good reasons, then by all means, who am I to say, they shouldn't. But and plus, hey, everybody's watching my season now. So
exactly. Exactly. You're now the most popular person of all time. You're back.
Right.
More attention to the Second Chances campaign.
Yeah.
Hey, you never know. You just never know. And especially with a lot of more famous people coming out and saying, I've been watching Survivor the entire quarantine.
Yeah.
That could be good for a Second Chances type and could be good for some of the players who are a little from the older cast and stuff, especially the really popular seasons. I mean, all we really need, I guess, is Tyler Perry to tell Jeff Probst that China's the best season and maybe he'll just bring you all back. Because
Tyler, you hear that?
As long as Tyler Perry tells Jeff something, Jeff does it. So it doesn't matter. I mean, that's all we need.
So let's start a campaign on Twitter.
Yeah, Tyler Perry, tell Jeff China's the best.
China's the best. Yeah, I've always said it would be really fun to have a comeback season. I don't know if everybody on my tribe would come back, but like to have like the most memorable tribes come back. Like maybe 4 of them and just duke it out. Like that would be so much fun. And I know Fei Long would be on it. I know they would. We were freaking awesome.
No, you're one of the most dominant tribes ever. You, the Road to 4, and Karor.
You're the most dominant challenge-wise, but also personality-wise. Like you guys, like top to bottom, have like one of the best personality.
Yeah, and it's.
Thank you.
I really believe that too, because like what's crazy is like you were the worst finishing player on Fei Long, and we know so much. We know so much about you. From this season, like to the point where it's like we should see if Leslie would come on this, but like that would be awesome to have Leslie on. But like no offense to other 14th place finishers, but that's not generally how it is. And I think that just says so much. I mean, it's you and then Aaron. Are you kidding? That's the 7th and 8th place finishers from Fei Long. That's insane.
Yeah, I know, right? But it is what it is. I'm just glad I was part of that tribe. We had our moments, but for the most part, we worked really well together. And, we had fun picking on John Robert together. We had fun, it was like, we just had our moments. We were just like any other family. Can I tell you a quick story about Fei Long? This was so funny. So it was day 4, I think. And we were trying to use our flint to get a fire and it was wet. I mean, it was the rainy season in China. So it was raining all the time and there was no dry wood. And so our flint was almost down to a nub. There was nothing left on it, hardly any magnesium. So I said, you guys, I'm not here to push my religion or God. I'm not here to, but listen, I believe that if we would pray, we would get fire. And they were like, well, let's try it. So they all took their hats off, right? It was so cute.
They were in on it.
It was so cute. And they took their hats off and put it across their heart. I don't think they knew what to do. And I prayed for fire.
That's the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah, no. This isn't the Pledge of Allegiance. It's okay. God's okay with this. And so we're standing in a circle around this little log, right? And I'm like, please, God, we need this fire. We're going to die without it. Like we need to boil water. We need this to survive. And Lord, I know you love us. And so I just gave this big prayer, right? In Jesus' name, amen. Close it off. And they put their hats on. And within 5 minutes, we had a roaring fire.
That's amazing.
I am not kidding. And
that's amazing.
So Courtney goes, well, I guess we can't vote out Mama because she's got a direct line to JC. It was so cute. But I was like, y'all can do that too. It doesn't have to be me, if you guys never needed it and I'm not here. So
but don't vote me out. Yeah.
Don't vote me out, but if you do.
Well, I mean, before we let you go here, I just want to ask you, and you kind of already touched on this, but how different do you think your game would have been had you been able to start on John Hu? You've been very happy to have been on Fei Long, but had you started on John Hu, how different do you think this would have gone for you?
It would depend on who took my place to go on Fei Long.
I'm trying to think of who
I would think you and Sharia would probably flip. Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah, because they didn't have a mom over there. They didn't have, Sharia was maybe the oldest woman over there, which is hilarious because she was 29, 28. She wasn't very old. Yeah, I think I definitely would have done better because Aaron just blew my game up. He was very upset. I'm sorry, my dogs are somebody just walked in the door. Okay. Yeah, Aaron just blew it up by getting concerned about me, which he should have been. So kudos to him. But yeah, I think I would have done okay. Unfortunately, I don't think that tribe in general was very strong because and they were, but when you compare them to Fei Long, my goodness.
Yeah.
3 really big guys, and then Chicken and Dave. And Aaron, not Aaron, Eric and Frosty were really strong, but they were they weren't big guys. You know what I mean? So I just don't see, I don't know. I probably would have at least made it to the jury. I believe.
I have another hypothetical, and hopefully, every producer from CBS is listening right now, but how do you think you would do on a present day season, on a Second Chances 2 for season 41?
Golly, it's so, it's funny that you're asking that because I toy with, should I even say how I would do in case I ever get there? And then people be like, I heard her on this podcast.
Disingenuous and then play the different way to get cast.
Well, here's the thing. I played pretty well. They just didn't show it. I got sick and it ruined my game. I think though, if I go back, that means there's going to be others who are going to go back. Unfortunately, I have a tremendous amount of love for people that I know and love. And so that will be very hard for me. But I do know it's a game. And I do kind of have something to prove because I feel like I got kind of a bum deal being sick and being voted out so early and really being such a fan of the game. And I do know how to play. I think it would be kind of fun to do that. And I think what I've learned out there is talk to the camera. Don't talk to the people. You can't let people know what you're doing, but you can let the audience know. And let them know what you're thinking and what do you, and kind of be like that. Like I would be in an alliance with America and it would be really fun. Because I know how to entertain. I know how to talk. I know how to tell a story. And I know how to play Survivor. So I think I don't think they would see it coming. I think everybody thinks that I play the way they showed me, which is fine.
That could work in your favor.
It could work in my favor, which could be really fun.
I love it. I think that's a great idea. I think I'm all about seeing that because again, old school player with a newer school personality than people realize. Which I think would work really, really well because
that was good, Phil.
Thank you. Thank you. I came up with that just from talking to you, Leslie, for the last 57 minutes. I can tell.
I inspired you.
Yes.
I love it.
As somebody with the greatest knowledge of how Survivor players would play. No, I think this has been great. Is there anything else you wanna throw in here at the end to top it all off? Or
well, I wrote a book. Of course, it was a while ago, but if you're interested, there is some stuff about a reality show that I was in. I didn't say what it was because I'm not allowed to say that. I talk about that a little bit, and it basically tells my story. I know a lot of people want to know how I got to the place of where I was as a believer. Like, what does it mean to be a Christian? Why is she a Christian? What happened with her? It's my story. And it's very raw. And like in the first chapter, you're going to be like, why is she telling people this? Because it's pretty open. I'm very honest. I don't really hide much. I like to be able to be myself and be real. And so the book is about that. And it's about my transformation and how God just got a hold of my heart. It's called Wholehearted, Living the Life You Were Created to Live. And so you can get it on Amazon. I'm sure it's like really cheap. It was never a bestseller. Not like Christy's book. Christy's book is killing it.
What is that? Christy's going crazy with that book.
I actually pre-ordered her book in June and I just got it.
It's so good. When you read that book, Winning Conditions by Chrissy Hoffbeck, when you read that book, like you will understand why she's the amazing person that she is. Like she's probably one of my best friends. I love Chrissy. As a matter of fact, we're going to get together next month, the Survivor Moms. We call ourselves the Mom Squad.
I love
We're all
that.
going to visit Sunday next month. So we're excited about that. Yeah.
Who's the Mom Squad?
Well, the ones that are going to this one are me and Chrissy, Lisa from Survivor Vanuatu.
Yes.
Sunday, of course, and Carolyn, Mama C,
Love
and
it.
Jill. Do you remember Dr. Jill?
Yeah, from Nicaragua.
Yes, who looks totally different now. She's like this hot blonde. I mean, she's beautiful. Like she was this like redhead, short hair, you know.
Yeah.
I was like, what in the world? She's like, yeah, my hair is actually blonde, but they had another blonde on my season, Holly Hoffman. And so they said, you know, if you want to color your hair, she's like, all right. And she colored it. So yeah.
Like a bit of a, if you did, that'd be amazing. Wink, wink kind of thing. Oh my gosh, I've never heard of that.
Now I want to see what she looks like with blonde hair.
She is gorgeous. Look her up. She's beautiful. All my girls are girls. I love my Mom Squad. These are my girls. We've been through so much together. And when we get together, it's almost like therapy. So
that's amazing.
You know, it's really good.
That's awesome. Well, I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I don't know if you did as well, but this was fantastic. I loved every second of this. And yes, when we set out to just do Survivor China, we weren't expecting to get anybody onto the podcast. We just were like, let's do Survivor China. Let's see what happens.
Oh, listen, you guys do really good work. I'm not kidding. I do podcasts and radio. You're really good at this.
Well, I appreciate that.
That
makes me happy. Thank you.
It should. And you should ask Todd. Tell him Mama said you had to do it.
I'll bother him. I mean, I will bother Todd immediately.
You don't even have to. He's such a fan of the show. He loves it. He loves talking about it.
And I will contact him.
Yes, do it.
No, we certainly will. But no, Leslie, thank you so much for coming on. We'll have to have you come on. I mean, maybe when Survivor comes back on, we can have you actually come on and we normally do power rankings games, which we obviously aren't doing now. We could do one for Survivor China if you want. Who would you put at spot number 13 for next week to go home? But, I wonder, right? But that's what we normally do. And we always have ex-survivors come on. And considering season 40 was a all returning season, we don't have a new batch to pull
Such a great season.
So
dang, that was a good season, wasn't it?
So good. So China's still better. Don't tell anyone.
It was a great, this was a good pausing point. Yeah. Season 40, all winners.
I agree.
This was
out with a bang.
Time to take a break.
Yeah, I agree.
No, but, this was really fun. Thank you guys for having me on. I love talking about Survivor. It's my favorite show. It is.
It's
ours too.
It's the best show.
It is. Totally.
Look.
So as Phil mentioned, next week, Wednesday night, we're still working out the time. We are going to talk to PG, also from Survivor China. So really excited to hear from her, hear what she has to say. But we are also talking about The Lion King, the Disney animated movie, next Monday night. Actually, with one of our patrons, Philip Conti, who I believe is in the chat right now, is going to be joining us for a Lion King podcast Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern time. So this one is definitely the most popular Disney movie that we have watched and probably will watch. So tune in for that. Leslie, thank you so much again for coming on. This was
super
really fun. It's one thing for Phil and I to talk about what we watch, but it's nothing to actually hear about how the scenes Bear's shirt was.
Well, tell PG hello for me. I love her very much.
We definitely
will. And when we do talk to Todd, I'll say, man, I heard you smelled really bad.
Yeah. And he'll be like, you talked to Leslie, didn't you?
Yeah. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Leslie.
Sure. You guys have a good day.